God, a female crew beat a male crew in a duel inside the Olympic Stadium of Athens, filled with 80,000 spectators. Unbelievable! Must have been pure luck. Well, I guess we're a very lucky crew, as we did it again the next 2 times. Or is there any chance it wasn't luck? Others having very low expectations of me because I'm a female, it's unfair. But it lifted the weight off my shoulders, giving me time to adjust, practice, and eventually improve. And soon I learned that in order to withstand the pressure, obstacle, and stereotypical comments, I had to change. To transform into a person capable of breaking the mental and physical limits connected to my gender multiple times. Some of that change came through conscious work, but the most important change came unconsciously and without me even realizing it. The stereotype I broke is that of women drivers in Greek motorsport. From a very young age, I was exposed to various stimuli. My father was head of the foreign news department in a leading newspaper, while my mother was art director for some of the best magazines in Greece. Later, my father became one of the most well-known automotive journalists and worked in magazines, but also had his own radio and television programs and was a Formula One commentator. He emphasized road safety, and his name became almost synonymous with accident prevention. I grew up in an environment where car and driving were logical parameters of our everyday life, and road safety came naturally. I couldn't imagine anything different. For example, having a child car seat was very rare those days. But I learned this was the only way I could ride in a car. You could say I was growing up in and with cars, having experiential knowledge of car evolution, safety feature evolution, radio and television broadcasting, and publications. And because of my father, I was attending car races almost every weekend. I had many opportunities to ride in racing cars with some of the best drivers and drive the rally cars before I even finished high school. When I turned 16, I raced karts for the very first time. The next 2 years, I participated in the national championship in races all over Greece. And although I had the license to drive in those races, I couldn't drive on public roads because in Greece, you need to be 18 before you take a driver's license. So my mother had to drive me to and from the races. I learned a lot during those seasons, but what I really loved was rallies on gravel. So I decided to complete the last season of kart races, and during the last 2 months, I participated in my first 2 rallies. At that time, I had to sacrifice all kinds of things. First of all, my personal time. I was studying in 2 different schools, attending classes day and night. At every opportunity, even between classes, I would be practicing with my kart and my car. In October 1996, I won the Greek component of the European Young Driver of the Year contest, but had to sacrifice the finals in Brussels, as the same day was the last kart race of the season. That was actually my last kart race. By then, I had to quit almost all other sports, like piano, ballet. You see, I did some of the traditional girly stuff. It was obvious that racing was what I loved most. This was my absolute passion, but not my father's, as you might expect. He didn't want me to race at all. And definitely, he didn't want to help me get things done with his intervention. If I wanted to do it, I would have to do it on my own. And I did. I acquired a rally car and whatever else it takes to participate in a race. My father found out when it was all already arranged. Part of the easy start was, of course, my gender, as I was the only woman driver at that time, so getting attention was easier for me. But I learned all the rest on my own. One of the best ways to start car races is join a one-make championship. What is a one-make championship? It's basically a series of races where all cars are identical, and usually the manufacturing company gives benefits and bonuses to the winners. The cars participate in events with many others, but they do have a separate individual classification just among them. It's very exciting because all the cars have the same capabilities, and it's up to the drivers to be faster and better. So you learn so much and really evolve in that kind of event. And that's how I started driving a Fiat Cinquecento 900 cc's in Trofeo Cinquecento, in all different kinds of races and surfaces. I had the amazing opportunity to participate for 2 whole seasons plus 2 rallies in total. Those were definitely the years I enjoyed most. Over the next years, I got a chance to participate in the Greek Rally Championship and a competition even bigger than that. The Acropolis Rally is the most important motorsport event in Greece. It's one of the best and certainly toughest ones in the World Rally Championship. It's every Greek rally driver's dream to take part in it. But it's exhausting, both financially and physically. Imagine driving all day. A lot of years ago, it was all night too, non-stop. In the Greek hot summer, now add fireproof overalls, fireproof tights, socks, long sleeve shirt, hood, helmet, gloves, and neck protection. Then imagine a tight bucket seat and 6-point seat belts. Take away any kind of air conditioning and car insulation as they're removed to lower the weight. We spent 4 days in those circumstances, driving in temperatures up to 50 degrees centigrade in the cabin, losing around 7 kilos. A challenge of physical stamina in cars gradually losing fundamental components like gears, wheels, suspension parts. I could go on for quite some time here. I've participated 8 times in the Acropolis Rally. And for all of these reasons, I earned the title of the most experienced female driver by the Greek Book of Records. Breaking the stereotype was not my intention. Being able to be successful in what I loved was. But this required changes I could never imagine. And through this process, I had to transform in order to adjust to all different challenges. Becoming a kind of two-in-one person and shifting between those persona when needed. Stereotypes exist. Maybe not as much as in the past, but still, girls are brought up with dolls and boys with cars. Well, my dolls didn't know how to drive as I did at the age of 6. Because I was brought in an environment where those stereotypes were basically already broken. And to be perfectly honest, it's not even right to try and take credit for breaking the stereotypes in rallies. Because in 1982, Michelle Mouton and her co-driver Fabrizia Pons finished second in the World Rally Championship, winning 4 events to the most well-known drivers of rally history. One of those rallies was our own, the Acropolis Rally. But this fact itself proves a stereotype. In almost 50 years of World Rally Championship history, this was the only time a female driver had accomplished it. One explanation may be that all other women can find better and less dirty things to do on a weekend. Well, I didn't. This was the absolute best thing for me to do on a weekend. It wasn't a desire to break stereotypes, but it was pure love for rallies. And I don't love speed or the rush, as you may think. What I really love is competition, evolving, getting better day by day, making progress. Rallies offer drivers absolute freedom. First of all, you drive in a different place every second, on a different mountain in every route. You see dozens of little villages, cities. You meet people. Rallies are also the most complicated kind of races. That's why they're the only ones where you need a co-driver. Most importantly, you get to be creative when driving, almost like an artist painting on a new canvas. Because gravel rallies are never the same for all of us. Maybe the car in front of you flanked a rock on your way, or it started raining and you unexpectedly find mud, or a car has stopped at the side of the road. So you learn to adjust and make decisions fast about everything you may find in front of you. And you learn to trust your co-driver. You learn commitment, strategy, responsibility to the team and to the sponsors. Honestly, it took me years to realize that I was the only woman among dozens of men. It didn't really matter or made any difference to me. But it's important to say that competitive driving is probably the only sport where men and women are equal competitors and fight in the same category. I won't kid you, it was a very rare and special circumstance, and it wasn't easy. The attitudes and behavior of others did not make it easy. I remember once during the race, we were 4 drivers in the second place with the exact same time. Several places behind me was an older and fast driver who, seeing the results, hung his gloves on a tent and said, "If a woman passes me, I quit." Everyone in between us was not a problem for him. For the record, he did continue the race and finished behind me. But another example too proves the point. As young adults, we used to hang out together with other same-age drivers. I remember one evening vividly. It was a Friday before a track race, and 5 of us met at my place. We had dinner and saw a movie. The next day at qualifying, I came in second. One of my friends never, ever spoke to me again. He was 9th, and this one-timed lap was more important to him than all the movie nights, trips, fun times, friendship, everything we had together. I remember a contestant who finished behind me and as an excuse sent in an interview, "I forgot the handbrake on." But also I remember the day I finished the Acropolis Rally for the very first time in 2001. This woman, who was very advanced in her pregnancy, came to the finish. She heard about me on television and she wanted to beat me. She was expecting a girl and she wished her daughter to be like me. I was already very excited, but this was even more emotional than the whole rally. I wish I could see this woman again someday and find out what became of her daughter. On our way to achieving our goals, we frequently face many difficulties, but we also find ways and people to help us move on. A lot of people supported and helped me evolve and continue competitive driving. Some stood by me more than they needed to. Like once in the Acropolis Rally, when on the very first route, I had a little accident, the car rolled over, and I injured my hand. Each of the following 3 days, we started very early in the morning and finished very late at night, so it was impossible to get an X-ray. Races always have medical teams on spot, so this one doctor, who could force me to stop, apparently saw my determination and desire, so he chose to help me by immobilizing my hand over and over again for 3 days, as you can see a little in the slide. When driving a car with manual gearbox, you mainly use your left hand to steer and the right one to change the gears, so I had to struggle even more. And I really paid for it after and for a whole year, but it was worth it. Through these challenges, we found that our limits are much further than what we think they are. And by transforming, both consciously and unconsciously, we move our limits even more. In the professional arena, things were not very different, but I had experience and I was prepared to face the struggle. I managed to pull through and become the only female member of the Hellenic Association of Automotive and Motorcycle Editors. Having proven that I'm not just a girl who chose cars to be treated differently by colleagues, I took over as president of my father's foundation, a non-profit organization for road safety that informs and works on preventing road accidents. And I love being able to offer others the knowledge I'm lucky enough to have by being born into this family. Every chance I have, I go back to where I started, like I did a year ago, participating in my most recent race. This time the foundation logos were on the car, so it was very special for me. One thing I can tell you about that race, muscle memory really exists. A couple of years ago, I had an interview for a website article being done on me. They asked me to arrange for a rally car to be there so they could get the whole feeling better and take some pictures. An eye-opening outcome of that article is how the writer saw something in me that I have never come to realize myself. She wrote that when I got into the car, I transformed into a wild beast running free in my natural environment. Me, a wild beast? I mean, look at me. Do you see anything wild about me? By then I knew I just had reached some of my goals. And it was surprising to realize that someone who just met me saw a transformation in me I had never realized. I was a different person when socializing, than when I got into the rally car. Of course, I couldn't tell the difference or understand when this happened. But this phrase helped me better understand myself and the mechanism I think we all have as a software in our DNA. But it takes some stimulus to install it in our brain and launch it when needed. That stimulus is the goal. If we set a realistic goal and we're passionate about it, then we can unconsciously transform in order to achieve it. Usually, we're afraid of changes and let this feeling keep us back. We take our eyes off the target and we settle to, it wasn't meant to be. At that point, persistence, commitment, and very hard work can make extremely impressive changes in our brain, unconsciously transforming us into what it takes. If we manage to fight the fear of changing forever to an unknown degree, we can even come to a point where we feel things before they even happen. Transform, metamorphosize, I prefer, in a way to face all possible obstacles. Maybe we all have a wild beast hidden somewhere inside of us, and we only need to wake it up.